Relationship Boundaries, presented by the University of North Georgia's Student Counseling Center.
Do you struggle with boundaries in relationships? I would like to give you some boundary guidelines which will help you. Physical boundary lines, such as fences, keep danger out and are landmarks for where your property begins and ends. But they also have gates to let people in your space who are trustworthy and good to be around, and to keep untrustworthy people out. Likewise, emotional boundaries are to keep you safe and less vulnerable in your relationships, so you can get your emotional needs met too. We need to be comfortable in saying no, even if it means creating tension in the moment. I promise you can do this compassionately. Think of setting boundaries as a tool for gaining respect. The problem with living a boundaryless life is that it makes you feel helpless and unfulfilled in your relationships. Things feel out of control when you cannot advocate for your own needs. Furthermore, taking responsibility for others' needs is exhausting. Dr. Cloud and Dr. Townsend, two psychologists, wrote a book on boundaries, and the book says on page 29, "Boundaries define us. They define what is me and what is not me." Signs of unhealthy boundaries include not saying anything. Other signs can be becoming too intimate quickly. Expecting others to know what you need automatically, like they are a mind reader, leads to confusing boundaries. Falling apart so others will have to take care of you leads to codependency and feeling helpless. Physical or sexual abuse is a safety risk issue, where boundaries are crossed to gain power and control over another. Telling all about yourself at first meetup may make the other person feel awkward. Boundaries require guidelines. Be clear in your communication. Don't use a tone or words that imply maybe, such as "not right now." You are just delaying defining your boundaries or creating blurred messages. Next, there are non-negotiables in relationships when it comes to our values and priorities. We tend to become like or mimic those we hang around, taking on their character values. Living someone else's values can lead to depression or, at the very least, confusion about our identity. Some examples of non-negotiables may be sexual activity, drinking alcohol or substance use, cheating on tests, or religious beliefs. Family time may be a value as well, and if your relationship severely limits time with your family that you desire, this may become a non-negotiable. Other examples of non-negotiables may include making study time, making enough time for yourself, making your own financial decisions, or sharing your living space. Let's talk about people-pleasing. It is not a bad thing to want to please others, but it can be unrealistic. Some people are not satisfied easily or ever. Feelings of disappointment, loneliness, or sadness when you say no to someone is not the end of the world. The other person will just be disappointed. You are not responsible for their happiness. That is for them to embrace. Healthy relationship guidelines require negotiation and compromise, not giving ultimatums. Taking responsibility for your own behaviors and attitudes may be a good talking point to start with. For instance, apologizing for interrupting others and explaining that your anxiety prompts you to blurt things out in the moment so you don't forget what you want to say is a softer approach. It is okay to say, "I need help working on this." Being able to see both sides and respecting differences of opinions is important. Keep talking until you can work out some coping skills with your differences. This may mean each of you reflecting on it and coming back to talk about it later. Boundary styles usually come in 3 types: porous or loose, healthy or rigid boundaries. In porous boundaries, you may let anyone get too close, are overly trusting and overshare, have difficulty saying no, adopt others' opinions, avoid conflict by giving in, and communicate in passive ways as opposed to directly. Healthy boundary types try to be picky about who to let in their circle of friends, take time to build trust, share appropriately, including being able to say no, value others' opinions as well as their own, see conflict as a part of life, stand up for their own values, and communicate assertively when needed. Rigid boundary types keep people at a distance, are typically untrusting of others, may be guarded when disclosing personal information, say no most of the time, are detached from others' problems, tend to ignore others' opinions, avoid conflict by pushing others away, and have inflexible personal values and communicate aggressively. So, tips for success. Being comfortable saying, "I have a problem with that." Say direct statements such as, "I don't want to." Be firm in saying, "I've decided not to." Consider saying, "This is what I need." Start with softer confrontations such as, "This is hard for me to say." Communicate, "I understand your point of view, but..." Body language may be used to say, "I feel uncomfortable about that." One option is to say, "I'd rather not." Or take a deep breath and say, "Yes, I do mind." Tell the other person what is important to you. Or give yourself a moment by saying, "I'll think about it." If being treated harshly, you can say, "That's unacceptable." Neutral statements may diffuse the tension, like saying, "I guess we see it differently." If you need more help, call Student Counseling at 706-867-4402.